Good afternoon. We'd like to call the June 2026 SANDAG Audit Committee meeting to order. Before we get started, I'd like to ask our interpreter to introduce themselves and walk through how to access our interpretation services for today's meeting. Interpreter, go ahead.
Good afternoon. Announcement from the interpreter. To use the interpretation feature, please go to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are. Click on interpretation and select English as your language. If you're joining through the Zoom mobile app, cell phone, tablet, etc., please press ellipsis, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Finally, click on mute original audio to not hear the original Spanish flow in the background. Headsets are available for the interpretation. If you're in the meeting room, please check out a headset from the receptionist in the lobby. Buenas tardes. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, favor desplazarse a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, globo terráqueo y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom, celular, tableta, etc., presione los puntos suspensivos y luego interpretación, y luego el idioma. Si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio, silenciar audio original. Contamos con auriculares disponibles para servicio de interpretación. Si se encuentra en la sala de reunión, favor de pedir auriculares con la recepcionista en el vestíbulo. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd now like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. The tribal nations of the SANDAG region have historically faced injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples who have since endured displacement, persecution, systemic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States. From our four cultural groups, the Kumeyaay, the Dueño, the Luisweño, the Cupeño, and the Coahuila. This land has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. As members of the SANDAG community, we acknowledge this legacy. We aspire to learn from indigenous traditional knowledge and experiences in undoing the justice of the past. Now, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I just want to confirm with Francesca that we do have quorum.
Thank you, Chair. We do have a quorum.
Fantastic. Just want to continue to announce that we are continuing to seek new public members to serve on the Audit Committee. The application is posted on the Audit Committee page of SANDAG's website. If you have trouble locating the application, please reach out to the clerk. The Audit Committee provides a critical oversight function to SANDAG and the public. If you are interested and have at least 5 years of auditing, accounting, financial, or legal experience, or a combination, apply today. We're going to go on to item 2.1, non-agenda public comments. Francesca, do we have any public comments?
Thank you, Chair. If you're online and would like to speak on non-agenda public comments, please raise your hand now. We have 3 commenters in the room, and it looks like 1 online. We'll start with Purita Javier and then Cesar Javier.
Hello, I'm Purita Javier, and this is my husband.
Okay.
Oh no. Planning our man.
Start reading now, so they may hear it.
Uh-huh.
Start.
From here to here.
Yes.
Rural, urban planning are centered on man, his shelter, mobility, circulation to produce a society that will look after itself and overshadow environment and habitat, all called Mother Earth. At the regions, what was this? Governments, the county has 4 departments to address these elements, namely, what's that? Oh, and safety department, finance, debt, large use and environmental or
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker is Cesar Javier, followed by allegedly Audra.
Yeah.
Department.
Okay.
Blue.
Yeah, finish. We are here as part of our governance. And we must say and declare that good governance demands a healthy planet, healthy people. SANDAG, we understand, is given the mission to plan, craft the rule, and implement mobility and circulation. That's 1/5 of the city elected officials' mission. 1/5. City officials, elected officials on this side are responsible on the other 4, including this mobility circulation. And for 5 years, they have been failing us. Our expectation is long due. For example, our family and community issue. 5200 block Streamview Drive, San Diego, California, part of the City Heights community. They failed us. They failed for 5 years to address abating and or moving the facility to a safer place. We asked APCD, APC did nothing. We asked the City Hall, they point fingers to each other. Code enforcement says, oh, we have nothing to do with the business permit. The police says, oh, we cannot investigate because it has permit. Oh, the city attorney says, is this civil or criminal case? Who knows? We expect help.
Thank you very much. Your time has
Vulnerable to-
expired. Our next speaker will be allegedly Audra, followed by Blair Beekman.
Here we go again. So you guys are running a meeting illegally. You're actually aware of it. I was told that, I can't talk to anybody. You don't want me to take anything out of context because I'm being transparent with the people that you refuse to be transparent with. This meeting, nor any meeting you guys have ever done, has been noticed legally 72 hours prior to the meeting at this location. This is your headquarters. You cannot post it 30 minutes away at some other office thinking that is allowing you to conduct business legally. So everything that you're going to continue to do here today is going to be null and void. And it's sad that I'm auditing SANDAG and or other boards, and it's like, you guys are scared of the transparency of that. Like I'm going to take out of context what somebody would say to me if I asked them about this or tried to inform you about it. That is extremely negligent and shows that you guys cannot be trusted. The fact that there's so much arrogance by people on these boards that continue to do business illegally, yet you hold us to a higher standard, it's bullshit. And this is what the people need to see, that you guys can't be trusted with our money. You're not even good stewards of it. And you don't want people to know that you're doing business illegally. That's why it's so important to have something where you're live and you show people what is going on. I don't edit that. This is going straight out. But you guys go and edit videos, especially if I've shared something that you don't want people to know. So it's extremely negligent for you to continue this meeting, which you're going to do, because we pay a pretty penny for your legal team to protect you, but actually put you in danger for litigation and actually being charged individually for misdemeanors, for continuing to violate the law knowingly. So continue and we'll go from there.
Our final speaker will be Blair Beekman. You can go ahead.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Happy June to everyone and happy election time to everyone. I hope it's going well for everyone. I wanted to comment. I heard DRA's comments previously at the executive meeting this morning and her words now. It was my suggestion and idea that you can place public notices at either the county offices and or the city of San Diego. But DRA says that that is a bit of difficult situation also. Is there a problem in putting up public notices at your new building? And in some sort of, do we have to have some sort of discussion with the owners of the building and how that can work? And is that the problem? Good luck in working that out, because putting up public notices is really important. It's so much more important than just putting them out on the internet, which is what just was described at the morning meeting. It has to be more than that. And to have that accessible is really important. So good luck in working with DRA to find solutions. She's offered there's a serious problem. Good luck in how the ways to work it out together. I'll be here for support and help as needed, as the community can be. It is important to consider. I also wanted to comment, San Diego, the city of San Diego, they're considering leaving ALPR technology altogether. Interesting. Good luck in that sort of effort. I've been describing that the city of Oakland is working on a compromise to leave Flock with the community to find a new ALPR vendor for their future. And that's the public process to go about such things. Good luck in such efforts. And just so you're aware, so you can bring that back to your cities. And to also note that with ARGIS issues, we're working on assembly bills that limit data collection of undocumented. Good luck on CLETS being the sole source for data collection, undocumented things. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the public comments.
Thank you. Are there any non-agenda member comments? No? See none, we're going to turn the time over to Mario for his update.
Thank you. I wanted to update the committee. May 22nd, we received a request to attend the California Joint Legislative Audit Committee. Assembly member DeMaio raised some a request to audit SANDAG related to the transit delivery, the North Coast Corridor mitigation, the lagoon restoration, and SB1 and CHOP program funds reporting. We went to the committee, I think it was this week, and we testified the vote to proceed with an audit did not pass, so that there won't be going with one. But what we brought up was regarding Transnet 1, we have pretty much everything, if not everything, delivered on the mitigation for North Coast Corridor. First, it was under statute, and it's part of the NEPA-CEQA process. So the lagoon restorations were appropriate. We do not use shop funds here at SANDAG, and we do go and do our appropriate SB1 reporting. And the committee felt that we do have the appropriate mechanisms here, including with this committee, Office of Independent Auditor, ITALK, as well as the other audits and checks that we have with FDA, FHWA, Caltrans, CTC. They felt that that was sufficient. and that we're working. And Assembly Member De Mayo was very complimentary on our efforts that we're doing currently. So that was also appreciated. So that's that report I had on that. Our budget for 2027 was approved for the agency. I thought we'll be discussing the scope of the fiscal year 27 Transnet audit. And our internal controls director continues to evaluate the different items that we're working on recommendations, as well as working on a risk assessment to determine our areas of focus internally in 2027. That's pretty much my report right now. Welcome if you have any questions.
Are there any questions for CEO? No?
No questions for the CEO, but since we did have two public speakers mention it, I mean, I believe our staff is fully confident about the noticing meeting the legal requirements at this point. Just wanted to confirm that with him.
Certainly. So the requirement for posting of agendas is that it be posted in a location that is freely accessible to members of the public. SANDAG utilizes its toll operations center for the paper posting of its agendas, which is accessible to the public 24 hours a day. And then, of course, does multiple postings online.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks. I do. I wouldn't consider this a top priority. I do think that we should look into what it would take to post the agendas here. It's definitely a valuable, that's where people will be thinking about us, right, too. So, but again, I wouldn't want to delay the border crossing or anything like that to get the agendas posted.
Executive committee also brought up the same questions, concerns, and we'll be working with building management to see how they allow us to do the postings and all that.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks for bringing that up, Member Zito. Appreciate that. We're going to go into item 2.2, which is an update from the Office of the Independent Auditor. Courtney, time is yours.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Courtney Ruby. I'm the Independent Performance Auditor. And first, I'd like to take a moment to introduce three outstanding professionals who joined us in 2026. So, and if you can just stand up when I mention your name, then you can sit down. That would be great. So in January, we welcomed Kathleen Medlin as our new Senior Independent Auditor. Kathleen brings nearly 20 years of experience in auditing across government, higher education, and healthcare. Her background includes leading complex audits and advisory projects within the University of California system, as well as serving in audit roles at Sharp Healthcare and the County of San Diego. Her depth of experience and expertise has already made a positive contribution to our work. Next, in February, Eduardo Luna joined us as Deputy IPA of Special Projects. Eduardo is highly respected in the auditing profession and brings decades of leadership experience in performance auditing. He served as the City of San Diego's first independent city auditor and has also held audit leadership positions in Beverly Hills and Oakland. We are fortunate to have someone with his knowledge, insight, and public sector expertise on our team. Most recently, in March, we welcomed Taylor Gray as an Associate Independent Auditor. Taylor comes to us from the California State Auditor's Office, where she developed strong skills in government and performance auditing, data analysis, and investigative work. She's passionate about advancing transparency and accountability in the public sector and brings a thoughtful analytical approach to our projects. Taylor also holds a PhD in history from UC San Diego. Please join me in welcoming Kathleen, Eduardo, and Taylor. We're excited to have them on our team and look forward to many more contributions from them. Thank you. Okay. So besides building our amazing OIPA team, we have been busy. We're at the national conference. In fact, I wasn't here at the last meeting because I was on my way there. And that is always just such an incredible opportunity to network with our peers, to have good educational opportunities to advance our continuing professional education. We are busy on our audits, the hiring practices and promotions audit, which Eduardo is leading. The inventory management, the major and minor assets is well underway. You'll be seeing that. That one will be the first out of the gate, and then the bike EAP. We have also been working diligently on the work plan that I'm very pleased to provide to you today. And we did launch the Ethical Climate Survey several weeks back. In fact, today is the last day for Sandaggers to be able to respond to the Ethical Climate Survey. So we're calling it Beyond the Baseline. We are looking forward to tabulating those results. So you will see now 18 months later where the agency stands. And that concludes my remarks.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Welcome to the new staff. And I think you just coined a new phrase, the Sandaggers. I kind of like that. Sounds like our musical backup group. So, did you have a comment, Fisher?
Thank you very much, Chair Fisher. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I welcome the new team and also the Sandaggers, as you have lovingly repeated. I wonder, the Ethical Climate Survey, who is invited to respond to that?
The employees. This is a survey that is directed to the employees of SANDAG.
Great, thank you. I look forward to those results. I recall the last survey, and that was very helpful. So I appreciate that. It's coming back, and we get to learn again from Sandaggers how things are going internally. So I do appreciate that, reaping that information and learning from it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
I'm going to take a half step back. I forgot to ask Francesca if we had any public comments for this item.
We do have public comment on this item. Cesar Javier and then allegedly Audra. And if you are online and would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand now.
Thank you, SANDAG. Cesar and Purita wanting to know all about this performance audit. While our community issue is not within the jurisdiction of SANDAG, which by reason and belief that it should not be. Why? Because the members are elected officials. Elected officials. In other words, politicians. Golf players. They swing extreme to the right, extreme to the left. What we need is, even if it's short, but accurate and straight. This independent auditor's job, as we suspect, has resulted into something favorable. Evidence. Lemon Grove has presented their CIP as far as road improvements. The 22% of 1.6 billion, if I remember right. And of that 1.6 something is dedicated to road improvements and other programs. Thank you, SANDAG. We now see a clearer picture of what's going on. Another thing is, when we say performance, we look at the organizational aspect. Are these taskings identified with the name of the offices are really efficient and effective to address?
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker will be allegedly Audra, followed by Blair Beekman.
This is ridiculous. I'm not an attorney. I should be, because your own attorneys are lying to you. They're giving incorrect advice. Just because you have a building that is open 24/7, 30 minutes away, doesn't mean that you can post that. The idea to post it is that it needs to be posted locally. This is the headquarters. This is where the meeting takes place. Both of those are requirements. So if this meeting was 30 minutes away, you could post it here, technically at the headquarters, but the meeting is here. You have to have it posted so that people know that they can come in here. And this is the problem, is that you guys think that you can talk your way around people and be like, no, we're doing it at a place where it has to be 24/7. No, it needs to be where the meeting is held, in a geographic location that is local to it. not 30 minutes away where you're hiding it, where people may not even be able to go like, oh, where is that downtown? I'm not even going to go. So for you guys to continue like this and thinking that, oh, we'll just talk our way around Audra and the people will think that she's just stupid. It's so egregious that you continue down this path, especially being an audit committee. You guys can't be trusted with anything. Again, like I told the other board, if you can't be trusted with very little, you cannot be trusted with a lot. And this is just proving so. Because you're trusting that your legal team that we pay for, who's lying to you, is going to save your ass. But everything that you guys have done has been illegally done at this point. And you're standing in it just going like, fuck you. So let's play this game because you guys want to fuck around and find out. Let's do it.
Our final speaker on this item will be Blair Beekman. You can go ahead.
Blair Beekman. Good luck on working on the public noticing issue. I'm hopeful in what you can be doing. I heard nice comment from staff on it. It is a concerted effort. It is an effort of dialogue, and good luck in that dialogue. I wanted to comment just a thank you that I heard, I'm understanding a new board person, an approval member, audit member is from Oakland. And I think it can be, the person being from Oakland is a very valuable resource in ideas and advice and a perspective and a way to view our budgeting and items that I think will bring something really interesting to yourselves. And it's hopeful in that if that can work out in good terms. I know the city of San Diego really used to rely a lot on Oakland for its ideas and thinking and worked off of them a lot. They ran into some problems, Oakland did a few years ago, and they've been kind of government-wise, been kind of in a bit of a confused state. They're coming out of that now. They're doing a lot of good work. And the main thing they're doing is really practicing social services before budget deficits. They have the largest budget deficit of any city in the state, and yet they're being very sure to work on social services first and then address the budget, and not the other way around as San Diego, and what was basically the standard of how to think and work on such issues. They have a different perspective in Oakland, and San Diego is really learning that now. And you'll notice that in the budget things this year and hopefully in the following years. It's really interesting. So good luck what the new president from Oakland can do. It's a lot to put on his shoulders. Sorry about that. And the tech things as well. And good luck that we really address our surveillance state in minimal responsible.
Thank you very much. Your time has expired. That concludes the public comments.
Great, thank you. Were there any other additional member comments? If not, we'll go ahead on to the consent calendar and the approval of our meeting minutes from our last meeting. Do we have any public comments on this one, Francesca?
Yes, thank you, Chair. If you're online and would like to speak, please raise your hand now. We'll start with Cesar Javier and then allegedly Audra.
On minutes. Thank you, SANDAG. We are always excited to join you. Why? Number one reason is this is the penultimate gatherings of thinkers region-wide. This is like USPJ or US Open in golf tournaments. This is like the Congress. This is like Washington, D.C. Number one that we would like to bring about is why our names not in these minutes. I have in my calendar evidence that we attended the meeting. Audit 1 p.m. Friday, May 1. We spend resources to come here. We are not paid by anyone, but an investment, if only to find solution to our community issues, concerns. Life and death to the extreme. And for 5 years, we haven't we haven't received a favorable action from the politicians. Countywide, citywide, air pollution district-wide, which was taken out from the county. My question is, why? And who will protect us? Who will defend us? That's the essence of minutes, because we are craving, we are dreaming. Purita Cesar, the solution has come. When do we receive such good news? Our fellow thinkers. We are just mere residents, but
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker will be allegedly Audra, followed by Blair Beekman.
I mean, honestly, it doesn't matter what you do in your minutes. You guys are going to sit here and placate the people, make people believe through your ridiculous presentations that you guys are actually doing something beneficial to the people. And it's like, you know, I mean, why'd you pick this building? So that it's not accessible to the public? So that, you know, these doors lock down so that, you know, I mean, even if you just want to stay here, it's like tens of thousands of dollars. Like we're paying a pretty penny for this location. And you're, you know, if it wasn't illegal, why would you want to post things here now? We're going to look into it. We'll see if we can. You shouldn't have picked this place if it wasn't something that was going to be accessible to the people. And again, we're paying for it. And I don't think you guys really care like what we pay for. It's just like you look at it as dollar signs, just like you look at us as dollar signs, people as a number. I mean, because if you really cared, it's like you'd care about, you know, just the people outside here that you can go and look at that are, you know, taking shits on the, you know, sidewalk right in front of you. Just wondering, you know, are they going to be able to eat later? Thinking that you guys are going to do something beneficial. But when you blatantly disregard the law and then we're criminalizing them for being out on the street, talk about playing dirty. And that's what you guys do. Because you shouldn't continue this meeting and you know it, but you're going to anyway. And it's like, you know, then if I want to, I can spend my money to go after you guys, right? And then you'll have our money to protect yourselves with it. How cool is that, right? What a great setup, you know, to do all these nefarious things. And you're like, who cares? I mean, what's going to happen to me anyway? You guys will be personally held accountable one day. And it's like, man, it'd be interesting to see you meet our maker.
Our final speaker on this item will be Blair Beekman. You can go ahead.
Hi, Blair Beekman. I wanted to give a hello to the Javier's and a real good luck in that their issues can be addressed and a resolution, some sort of approval, a board meeting can take place to address their concerns eventually again. And yeah, good governance is important right now. Thank you for the words of Audra, who I think made an important point. What exactly is SANDAG done by moving into this building? What are the expectations and how do we address that? And that may be an issue here. And good luck first addressing the building, what they can do to help support the public notice process. And good luck to that conversation. It should be ongoing and an answer can be found. Good luck in that effort. I wanted to comment for this item from the previous meeting minutes that as you did an overall review of your auditing practices, basically, and what you're doing, a comprehensive financial report and other financial compliance audit services, I just wanted to give yourselves a compliment that I've been really impressed that the audit department's been working on whistleblower protection issues and SANDAG itself to really to work on whistleblower protections for employees and I guess for community too. You know, bringing that together and it's a real important component to the future of the accountability efforts we're working on at SANDAG. And I think just gives great examples of how all boats can rise kind of thing, you know, for other city governments to learn from. And whistleblower protections, believe it or not, really started to take off and redevelop at the same time as tech accountability practices back in 2014. and they kind of came up at the same time. So I've always been really interested in that sort of work together, and that it builds trust and mental health and just our best selves. So good luck. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the public comments.
Great, thank you. Do I have any member comments? No? Seeing none, do I have a motion and a second?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Go ahead and vote.
That motion passes unanimously with those members present.
Wonderful. We're going to move on to item number 4, which is the 2026 risk assessment and proposed annual work plan for fiscal years 2027 and 2027 or 2027 and 2028 for the Office of the Independent Performance Auditor. Courtney, the time is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon again. I'm Courtney Ruby. I'm the Independent Performance Auditor, and I'm very pleased to I got ahead of myself there. Very pleased to provide the proposed annual work plan and risk assessment for fiscal year 27 and 28 to you. It is in accordance with AB 805 and Board Policy 39 that I provide this to you for the Audit Committee's approval after discussion. The annual work plan is based upon a comprehensive risk assessment process to identify and prioritize areas posing the greatest risk to SANDAG achieving its mission. The risks facing SANDAG are complex because SANDAG is an expansive government agency with a multitude of responsibilities operating in a challenging economic and technological environment. This year's risk assessment included a survey that was sent to leadership that included the board, directors, executive management, anyone, and in addition, we sent it out to the employees and the public. The great thing about this, as you'll see once I dive into the report more, is that there is alignment that exists between leadership and the employees and OIPA in relation to audit risk and audit priorities. Yes, the plan is ambitious, and you'll see that, but it's necessary to provide the appropriate level of oversight an agency such as SANDAG requires. Going forward, I am suggesting developing a 2-year work plan based upon a comprehensive risk assessment conducted during even years, as we did this year, so it would be consistent with this process. In the odd years, we perform a limited risk assessment to update the upcoming work plan, which in this document is the preliminary proposed work plan. The interim assessment will focus on soliciting and evaluating agency leadership concerns, as well as identifying and incorporating emerging risks that warrant immediate inclusion in the work plan based on their level of significance. I want to thank the Board of Directors, the Audit Committee, SANDAG's executive team, department directors, employees, and the public for entrusting me with your concerns and sharing your ideas during this year's annual risk assessment process. The effectiveness of this process is dependent upon open and honest communication with everyone. As we get into the report, you'll see that we have OIPA's past and current work in progress. It's color-coded so that the reader can take away a sense of where OIPA has spent its time since its inception in 2019. So you'll see contracts and procurement in orange. We've spent a lot of time doing audits there. You'll see accounting and finance in the aqua color, and then in the magenta color, SR 125. Additionally, we have work in progress. So you'll see the audits I mentioned earlier that we're working on in bubbles that say in progress. The work listed on this chart are audits unless they are identified as analysis, assessment, investigations, or surveys. So now let's talk about where we're headed. This slide identifies the results of the risk assessment. These are the highest risk areas based on a couple things. So when I do the risk assessment, there's some things that are taken into consideration. First, it's prioritizing concerns raised by SANDAG's leadership, employees, and the public, which are SANDAG stakeholders. And that's captured in a survey this year. And those topics that were rated in the survey were collected over 2 years of the past annual risk assessment process. I also analyze emerging and existing risk. That includes looking at the annual comprehensive financial report, budget, various other reports, audits, assessments, looking at past audit findings, whistleblower tips, having discussions with the board or the committees or the financial statement auditors, meeting with executive management throughout the year, and also looking at our collective audit community to see what are other audit shops doing that we see similar risk profile in. This then is the culmination of this turns into the proposed work plan for fiscal year 27 and 28. I'm going to walk you first through the proposed audit plan for fiscal year 27 in the bubbles. So for up on the left-hand side, we have contracts and procurement. You'll notice that review improvements to sole source process has a tick mark of a 5. The tick marks are on the right side of the slide. That lets you know that this is a carryover. It was an item that we didn't complete in this year's work plan, so we're moving it forward. We also have, from the risk survey, identified in the bullet points underneath items that both leadership and the employees agreed upon, which is tick mark 1. The leadership agreed it should be a priority, tick mark 2. So contracting was clearly still an area that people are focused on, and we will be in this area for this year. The other items are department structure, capacity and timeliness of workflow, all contracting activities, and contracting monitoring, performance, and funding. Next, I want to take you to closer to the bottom, moving in a little to the agency risk management, where you see the next purple item. And we see on there the enterprise risk management audit is highlighted to be in the work plan. Above that, you also see third-party risk in this bubble, and below it, you'll see artificial intelligence policies and procedures. So third-party risk is an item that I've identified as the IPA as a risk. The enterprise risk management was, in addition to I concur with this, it was also marked from leadership's viewpoint as a top priority, and the artificial intelligence policies and procedures was marked as a priority by employees. When I say that it's marked by that, let me talk about the risk rating. When we provided the topics out in the survey, we asked survey takers to identify the top 10. So these items that are included in the annual risk assessment are items that received a risk. They were selected by 15% or more of the survey respondents. So that's why they have landed in the overall risk assessment. Okay. Next, moving into the financial planning and budgets and grant bubble, you'll see the impacts of budget constraints there. And this was selected both by employees and leadership as a concern, and grants management underneath is also in purple that will be included in the upcoming year proposed audit plan. And then also uncertainty of federal funds and adequacy of administrative overhead were ranked as concerns both by leadership and the employees. And again, I'm not going to keep repeating that. I concur with the risk ratings. That's why they are also included. Next, we'll move over to the operations budget, is over on the far right. And that will be the last item in purple for fiscal year 27's proposed work plan. And that's an IT security review. It's not abnormal for an independent auditor's office to want to just take a look and see how everything's going in that arena. Now I'm going to jump back to the magenta items, the ones I touched on one item for the fiscal year 2028 preliminary proposed plan, and that was the AI policies and procedures. But let's go over to mega projects on the far left. So Otay Mesa project delivery was selected by leadership as a top concern. We then move into the governance bubble. And this was brought forth by both leadership and this was a leadership item, excuse me. Board governance policies and best practices. You'll see when we move to the next page that we have a more broader audit topic of governance. I'm fully aware that the new council will be looking at policies and procedures and presented that today at executive committee. Anytime we have a proposed audit, there'll be a preliminary planning phase that will go in. We'll analyze what's currently being done in the agency, and we'll use that as information to inform the pieces that we would take forward. I also want to note in this bubble that there's also the effectiveness and inclusion of policies from advisory committees that leadership brought forward. Last agency governance was an item that I brought forward on this, and that we're seeing that in our audit findings. And you've seen that in some of the past audit findings. So that's a common thread that's coming out. And then lastly, the note on this is that aspects of governance would be addressed in the ERM audit due to the nature of ERM. Next, moving into the capital projects, which is in the middle on the left side in a little bit, the assessment of planned capital projects delivery and outcomes. This is on the fiscal year 28 plan. This was an item we talked about going into last year. And we put a pause on it because the agency's working on standing up their project management PMP function. So it also showed up in the risk assessment as a concern, both of leadership as well as, like I said, it was previously on the work plan. So we're pushing this off to fiscal year 28 to give SANDAG time to continue to work on that. And then just general management of capital projects is an overall concern. Next, moving into human resources, the big bubble up at the top mid on the right side. So this is interesting, right? We have the topic of human resources is magenta here. This item had a lot of attention in the survey, as you can see. Retention strategies were marked top concern from both leadership and staff. You then go on the same with the organizational assessment of roles, responsibilities, competencies, and capacity. Then succession planning, HR policies and practices, training and professional development and certification, as well as staffing analysis. All three items were called out by staff. So it's good to know that here I state, due to the number of areas identified, we will apply risk procedures to determine the best area to audit in fiscal year 28. And I also want to make you aware that management is currently conducting an assessment in this area, and those results would be included as part of our scoping process to determine where we would go in. Next, at that point, I have gone over all the ones that are highlighted for fiscal year 27 or 28. So I'm going to touch on the bullet points that don't have either purple or magenta in them. When we look at strategic planning, you'll see there's items there that showed up in the survey: organizational strategic planning, organizational structure, systems integration and resource allocation, and agency-wide work distribution. Aspects of those, again, will be covered in because strategic planning is a part of enterprise risk management. So we'll be touching on some of that in that arena. We also have toll ops up at the top by the key. We spent a lot of time in toll ops since I joined SANDAG. So we feel that there's a significant amount of coverage, but this was a top concern, both from SANDAG, OIPA, SANDAG leadership, OIPA, and the employees. So we're going, and management is currently in there conducting an assessment on top of it. So we will consider if further work is warranted in fiscal year 2028. We'll revisit that after the assessment is out. And we continue to have monitor it. Regional concerns. I'm sure you're not surprised that RENA is on here, and that was notified, that was identified by leadership. And then project prioritization and evaluation, I have on there from my risk process. And aspects of the project prioritization and evaluation will be addressed in capital project delivery audit that is already identified for fiscal year 28. Okay, so the only bubble I have not spoken to is accounting and finance, and I will address that when we get to the 2 more slides down. So this just gives you a cleaner summary of what is proposed in the work plan. Some of it has been, like I stated, from governance structure, we have broadened some of the topics, AI strategy and implementation versus just policy and procedure. Everything will go through a audit pre-planning process and risk assessment to determine when we scope our objectives. And also, I will evaluate here whether work is in-house, contracted, or both based on our available resources or the expertise needed, and accordingly provide that to you when I bring the budget forward in December, or if it's a more urgent need, I would bring that to you sooner. On this slide, I'd like to talk first about IPA's recommendation for management, and then I'll pick up the continuous activities. I want to speak to it first because of its importance. This is the first time I've issued a recommendation in a risk assessment and annual work plan. In my professional opinion, it is critical. I started my journey at OIPA with SR 125 in the investigation, which found that the financial reporting could not be relied upon. We also recommended an independent assessment of finance and accounting at that time, which Weaver completed. In the 2024 annual comprehensive financial report, there were 5 material errors that the auditors identified in adjusting entries. As I stated, Weaver brought forward their report with recommendations for accounting and finance. And then in the annual comprehensive financial report for 2025, again, there were 5 material errors that the adjusted entries that the auditors proposed. So the recommendations for management are to prioritize implementation of the accounting and finance recommendation in OIPA's accounting and finance independent assessment, and to take immediate action to engage a qualified CPA firm to assist SANDAG's accounting and finance team in preparing for the annual comprehensive financial report audit and related reporting obligations. I didn't note in my introductory comments to this item that there's also been a delay in having the annual financial report prepared on time. So now I will go back up and touch base on the continuous activities. We are always in a process of evaluating corrective action plans. You will see the quarterly corrective action plan today. So every month we are receiving evidence on implementation recommendations. We're evaluating that, and then we're bringing that forth on a quarterly basis. What's important to note about the CAPS is, and the timeliness is that when recommendations aren't implemented in a timely manner, it does have a reverberating effect because we go in, we audit another area, the deficiencies are still there, and it comes up again. The whistleblower hotline program, as you know, we run 24/7. We receive tips. If the tips warrant it, then we initiate an investigation. We have annually and quarterly reporting all the way from our CAPS report to our investigation report to the annual report, annual work plan I'm presenting to you today. Outreach. We are providing programs to employees such as a Let's quarterly series, Let's Talk Ethics, in addition to other educational opportunities. We are going to issue this year the annual whistleblower hotline awareness survey as well. And then other activities is that we are interacting with our peers. We are providing continuing education opportunities for them or forums inviting them to Let's Talk Ethics. We are going to conferences and brainstorming with them and learning from them and growing in other ways to contribute overall to our industry. You'll see in the report a month by month work plan for OIPA like I did last year. So we've provided that as well. And then there are also 5 appendixes. The annual risk assessment survey results are found in the appendix, topics considered in the survey, and new topics captured in this year's survey because survey participants have an opportunity to provide comments. I read all those comments and then glean what the new topics are. And then there's an overview of the comprehensive risk assessment process, and last, a little bit more about OIPA in case people aren't aware. And with that, I'll take questions.
Thank you. What a great presentation. A lot of information there for us to digest. Francesca, do we have any public comments on this item?
Thank you, Chair. We do. We'll start with Cesar Javier and then go to allegedly Audra. If you're online and would like to speak, please raise your hand now.
Thank you, SANDAG. It's a crucible, conundrum, difficult to weigh, difficult to solve, difficult to wonder a solution to address a particular mobility circulation element in planning. We would like to present to you for investigation as a branch to investigate street improvements. And this has been a cycle. And yet, to our observation, it looks like inferior. It easily cracks. It easily, shall we say, a problem. The standard is set, and yet it is not implemented. Like our city street, Sir Mario. We would like to find out what sanction, what liability these planners by elected officials, particularly our city of San Diego as the show window. They are part of the thinkers here, and we respect that. And we respect also to, in public, transparency on what they did, the failures, which was up.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker will be allegedly Audra, followed by Blair Beekman.
Let's talk ethics. You guys shouldn't be doing nothing regarding that. Unless you're teaching people how to be unethical, then you guys go be willing to do it. I would like to know how we can trust you and your risk assessments when you're contracting with, monopoly companies like Tyler Technologies that have, 18 federal lawsuits, have been engaged in fraud, waste, and abuse for years, wants a monopoly on all these software programs so that they can take the government to its knees. Just the fact that it is owned by BlackRock and Vanguard and like all of these other software, contracts that the government gets, that they want a monopoly, like I'm saying, on all of that, right? So you can collect all that data. It's going to seem nice. We need it all in one centralized location, like the centralized banks, right? How cool is that, right? So I'm just wondering how we can trust you when you are contracting with companies that you shouldn't be, when you're not doing a risk assessment to make sure that you're not wasting our money, putting SANDAG in danger. I mean, it's like, how many federal lawsuits actually count? Is it 19 or 25? I mean, how many need to be done for it to be like, oh gosh, wow. Yeah, it was like 31. That was like the threshold that we were able to, get over. Just sad because it's like, I mean, you want us to trust you, but you're obviously proving that you can't be trusted when you're contracting with companies like that. And then, I mean, all you do is give recommendations. That's why all of these, like this audit committee or like the OIG or, the ombudsman come here and we'll investigate and then we're going to give them recommendations and they can say, fuck you. But, we're doing our job. And then fraud, waste, and abuse continues. The system is so corrupt. And you guys are so happy to be a part of it. It's so evident. Good job.
Our final speaker on this item will be Blair Beekman. You can go ahead.
Hi, Blair Beekman. I think I'm just listening this side. I'm listening and learning. Good luck to a good conversation on what you're going to discuss after the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the public comments.
Wonderful. Do I have any member comments? Yeah, go ahead.
On the risk assessment result, page 12 of the packet. So the bubbles with no magenta or purple, are they like current risk or?
This is all a result of.
Oops. That is the results of the risk assessment. So you can see the risks in the assessment are greater than the capacity. So where I'm identifying, these are the areas I'm proposing for fiscal year 27 and 28. However, in the bubbles, I tried to, if we were some way looking or working in that arena or management was doing assessment in that, I wanted you to know. So there really is coverage in all the bubbles in one way or another.
So I guess it's still not too clear. So if there's a magenta, that means it's for fiscal year 28.
Yep. So when
And
you
the
look at here, that's a
okay.
28 plan.
And
OME project.
Purple is for 27.
Yep, you got it.
And if it doesn't have the purple or the magenta.
It's either, it may tie to an audit. That's why like one of the notes says like for ERM, we'll cover aspects of this in ERM, or for tolling ops. We've had a lot of coverage in that area. We know that management has an assessment right now. So it's on the radar, but no, we are not actively proposing a audit for either fiscal year 27 or 28.
Okay. And so there are a lot of risks on that. And so how would you narrow it down to put together your audit plan?
The narrowing it down is really looking at what's not only what's coming through in the survey, right, but also what we know, right? Like with Otay Mesa, that's a huge risk. It's a huge project, right? Leadership is concerned about it. That is an area that we know is important for the agency, important for the public. So it's looking at the filter of the greater risk assessment that is in the back, urgency, resources, priority, and then it raises it up. Capital delivery is critical for the agency. Almost 800 million or 800 million is going into capital projects in the new year, the budget. And I'll bring forth more ideas to you when I present the budget to get more coverage in that arena. This is really taking that, not only my own risk assessment, but having the opportunity for the stakeholders to weigh in and for you to see the alignment of where people are, where the concerns are. And that is an important part of any auditor's risk assessment, is to see what's bubbling over.
Thank you for clarifying.
I do want to have a comment, because concern and complexity may be intertwined. And I hear the word concern by management, and sometimes it may be complexity more than concern. And I want to make that clear, like on a specific big project, let it be OME, let it be loss and realignment. Do I have concerns about it? No. Do I worry about its complexity and how do we deliver certain things because they're so unique? Yeah. You know, is an audit going to help me figure out how to deliver something? I do not know. It may be an assessment on certain elements on something so big and so complex. So I do want to make that clear. From my point of view as management, because you know, I do want to make that very clear. Concern to me, they ask me, what are you thinking? What are you top on your mind? Well, top of the mind is what's complex and how to figure out how to deliver that project, right? And it could be the environmental document of the loss and realignment. How do we align the multiple points of view by all the community? How do we align all the risk on the socioeconomic issues, the environmental risk, the engineering risk, right? So those are, I did want to highlight that because in this, I'm just talking from the management perspective. It's not that I am concerned about something going wrong or something being faulty. We are dealing with very complex issues, and sometimes we have to figure that out. You know, not here, not one of our roles and responsibilities day to day. Are we concerned about the Tijuana issue? Yeah, the Tijuana River issue. It is a very complex subject, right? That we all have to think about it. You know, so those are things. I just wanted to put the semantics into it because it may help on bringing that the sky is not falling on all this items. There are complex items that it's always good to have a fresh set of eyes to see how they help us within an element of a very complex bubble.
I think that's great clarification, you know, and like with OME, another thing, it's like, right, leadership is focused on OME just as far as a part of the process, right? In our process, and I've done this in previous jobs, I would go and interview the board. I would talk in more detail. What are your concerns? I would talk to Mario, right? And members of his exec team to say, where do you have concerns? Because again, it's not designed to be like, oh, hey, Mario, you forgot this. It's designed to be, where is an area that you have concerns, you know, for the board very much, right? What are you, like when you say OME project delivery, what does that mean to you? So there's a whole process that goes on before an audit would be scoped.
Member Zito?
Yeah, thanks. And once again, thanks, Courtney. Really nice job. And I guess I'll start out by congratulating you by not picking Rena. Well, that's certainly a concern of everybody. I think there's way too much risk of this group being pulled into some political crap that best to avoid. So good job with that. I also like the 2-year view. I think that's very helpful. It'll help keep things moving strategically in a better way. I guess the one question I have maybe for Mario is when is the back office for 125 and 15 supposed to be done at this point?
Give or take a year from now.
Okay, so I think a year from now it'll be a good idea. You know, I understand why not to do tolling, but it's also we're doing a major shift on who's doing the back office. So maybe next year we should look at it and then maybe you can also convince me that we'll get a deep enough look at that just through the ACFR process, because I know that's taking a lot of handholding just to get through ACFR, but that'll be a useful thing to talk about next year as well. I did also see in there a comment in the staff report about it was an interesting step that we took this year about doing the public survey as well. And I just see the comment that the public response rate was low, but you did take into consideration things that were brought back. But so does that mean that we'll do it again? And probably if we do it, probably it's only on the every other year cycle to do the bigger survey that includes the public as well. Is that what makes sense?
The plan is definitely to do the survey part every other year.
Okay.
It's a lot, and we have to figure out how to get more exposure to the public on that piece.
Yeah, that's always difficult to figure out. We certainly mentioned it at plenty of our meetings. So, but that second part will be tricky. So I appreciate the step we took there. Otherwise, yeah, I like the overall plan. Just want to make sure that next year we do take a relook at tolling based upon how the integration has gone with the new back office. Thanks.
Cool. Any other comments from board members? No? You're good. I just want to say thanks. I can imagine the work that goes into figuring out how to do a 2-year plan. I'm sitting there looking at all these bubbles thinking, man, I I don't know how you do it, but thanks for doing it. I think that the 2-year will hopefully give staff a little bit more time to continue the work and not planning to do the work and just help the work get done. I do have a couple of comments and questions. I want to look at down, I don't know what page it's on, I can't tell. Page 14, where it talks about the continuous activities. There's a note under there that talks about the IPA's recommendation to management. Maybe you could just give I know you kind of spoke to it, but maybe a little bit more. Because I'm still fairly new on that committee, but I don't remember seeing a whole lot of recommendations. Is that normal for this?
It is not normal. So it is based on the critical nature of financial reporting and accounting and finance to the agency. So that the recommendations were made, we will incorporate this, as the note 7 says in the bottom, will be formally incorporated into our implementation progress. And we're requesting management provide a formal corrective action plan by June 30th on those 2 items.
I had a question.
Yeah.
And what does that look like? Because June 30th, you're asking us to respond within the next 25 calendar days. And it's good to try to understand. It's not just a blanket statement, because, any audit, anything takes a lot of work. And we also need to keep moving the agency with our day-to-day items. So I think we do need to clarify exactly what you're asking for to see if it's achievable or not. Because suddenly the footnote says that, and then we didn't look at it, and then we get an email saying you're mandated to do this by June 30th to my level of satisfaction. Well, it's a two-way street here. So we do need to understand what is the commitment, so we can honestly say if we can achieve it or not.
That's totally fair. So it would just be on June 30th to provide a response on what your plans are. So in relation to prioritizing the implementation, and if it is that, how you want to create that plan, or how you're going to bring on more resources for the annual comprehensive financial report and related reporting obligations. So it's what we do in the audits where you respond with your management cap. This would be your cap. But we can clarify that more too.
Yeah,
offline.
like the chair, I'm new to this world also on the audits. And so really clearly understanding the commitments is important, for the future, not for this, but big picture for this committee and the entire agency. We will have to eventually start resource loading all the efforts, because it's good to have a lot of work or good things coming out, but as a whole agency, not just as one section, we will eventually need to get to a point where how do we spread out the resources and the efforts to be able to maintain continuity both on audits, correction items, and keep delivering our efforts, right? That is going to be a good thing to try to figure out jointly, everybody in the agency, as we keep moving, so that can be balanced also.
And I understand that CEO. The critical nature of this was to say that there has to be a sense of urgency brought to these two items, and the board and the audit committee need to be aware of that. And I know while I wasn't here at the last meeting that if more resources are needed, that conversation.
No,
needs to
I
happen.
appreciate that. And if there would to be a poll inside the agency within my management, you will probably hear that I have said we need to address the Weaver recommendations to the level that we can. I don't know, Shanae, and she's in charge of trying to get that going through.
Yeah, no. So what we will do is we still need to evaluate internally what our corrective action plan is going to look like. So right now, I am completing a complete assessment of our corrective action plan. So I'm doing a risk assessment based on level of risk, level of impact, level of effort. And so based on that, we will develop more realistic timelines for those recommendations. We will prioritize the recommendations that we're going to focus on for fiscal year 27. And so as a part of that process, seeing Courtney's recommendation, we will take that recommendation into consideration, and then we internally will assess how best to address that based on the resources and the areas of focus that we have established. But please be assured that the Weaver financial audit is one of the areas that is top priority for us in fiscal year 27.
Thank you. I appreciate the conversation, the response. Again, a few more questions. So going back to the recommendation, is it the recommendation there? Is that kind of, I know there's a ton of areas of risk. Is that something that's just at the very top of the list, or is it just something that's urgency?
Again, that speaks to this. It wouldn't be normal for me to put a recommendation in the annual work plan or the risk assessment. I did put it in there so that you all knew where I stood on this, that this has to be handled. It's critical for the agency. And so yes, it is a high risk.
Because I think if my memory serves me, because the last couple of years, there's been a larger delay in the financial audit reports. I know that Member Zito had mentioned that a couple of times, and the importance of making sure that they get done. And again, I'm sure there's a lot of complexity within that area. And I think this year, when I listened to the Weaver report and talked about it, I think there is the biggest change from the previous years. We had an unmodified opinion, and I think that was good. But it seems like there's a lot more to work to be done, and I agree that this committee did recommend that adding more resources is needed to get the reports done best a little bit closer to when they're supposed to be.
And Chair, I had the opportunity to talk to the financial statement auditors because of my concern with the 5 material journal entries that were identified after the fact. So there, to ask what success looks like, there would be no material errors that would be identified. So I know it's a work in progress. I know that the accounting and finance is working. The recommendation is really to say, get the extra resources in there to support them, because they have had a lot of things on their plate, as we've acknowledged in previous reports. Thank you.
Yeah, and it was mentioned early, kind of the complexity of what goes on here and how much it's intertwined. Looking at the big group of bubbles and how just you're not solely focused on one all the time. Obviously, there's some goals and some priorities, but making sure that you don't take something off the list that still needs a little bit, or you take a few things off the list after one effort. So I'm glad I was watching this whole work plan. I was glad to go back to the beginning of the meeting where you introduced 3 new employees. So to shoulder this workload, it takes a village and then some. So I appreciate that. Were there any other comments or questions? No. Let's make sure. Did I forget anything? We did public comment, right? Yeah. Okay. Okay, we were asked to approve the proposed annual work plan. Do I have a motion in a second?
So moved.
I'll go ahead and second that. I'll go ahead and vote.
That motion passes unanimously with those members present.
Wonderful. We're going to go on to item 5, which is a quarterly status update for the update for audit recommendations and corrective action plans. And Courtney, the floor is now yours. Or is Michelle's going to take care of it? Fantastic. Let's turn over to Michelle Ludwig.
Good afternoon, Chair Fisher and Vice Chair Molina and members of the Audit Committee. I'm Michelle Ludwig, Deputy Independent Performance Auditor. Today, I'm presenting the audit recommendation and corrective action plan quarterly status update for the quarter ended March 31st, 2026. So at the start of Q3, there were 19 corrective action plans or CAPs due across 5 audits. This includes one new recommendation that was added after management finalized its response to the accounting and finance independent assessment. This next slide summarizes the CAP activity that occurred during the quarter. So starting with the 19 CAPs that were due at the beginning of Q3, several changes occurred. First, management revised 4 CAPs from prior quarters into this quarter, which increased the number of CAPs due to 23, and I'll talk more about that on the following slide. Second, management revised 8 CAPs that were originally due in this quarter to future quarters, so that decreased the number of CAPs due to 15. And of those CAPs, management provided the supporting evidence for 1 CAP. So we ended the quarter with 14 CAPs past due. Management did not provide revised dates for those CAPs at the time. So there were also changes to the corrective actions that were not due in this quarter. First, management provided supporting evidence for 20 corrective actions, and I'll discuss the results of that, our review on the next slide. And in addition to the 4 CAPs that they revised into this quarter, they also revised the dates of 36 other CAPs that originally had been due in Q1 and Q2. So of the 21 CAPs that we reviewed during the third quarter, 20 were determined to be implemented and 1 was determined to be partly implemented. So at the end of quarter 3, 120 recommendations issued by OIPA remained open. This includes 48 new recommendations from the Accounting and Finance Independent Assessment, and that was in addition to the 25-26 line. Importantly, we are beginning to see strong progress in addressing older recommendations. 78% of recommendations issued during the 22-23 fiscal year have now been completed. And as expected, the completion rate is lower for the fiscal year 26 due to newly added recommendations that are still in progress. So looking ahead to the next quarter, which will be Q4, this slide shows the monthly breakdown of the 65 CAPs that are coming up due. And this is set up by owner who is responsible for implementing the corrective action. Okay, so in the following slides, I'm going to briefly walk you through the appendices that are included in the presentation. So there's 3 slides in Appendix A. The first slide, you're going to see the definitions of the recommendation statuses that are used throughout the appendices. This next slide defines the planned, revised, and past due implementation dates and explains how they're presented in the following slides. And this final slide is a new addition to the report. This outlines how OIPA assigns risk ratings to recommendations. So beginning in 2025, we began including risk levels and recommended implementation timelines for all new recommendations. At the Audit Committee's request, these ratings have also been applied to prior recommendations where applicable. And the matrix on this slide shows the 3 risk levels and their corresponding implementation timelines. So Appendix B here, this shows the results of the 21 recommendations we reviewed during the quarter. So you'll see that they're mostly all implemented. On this third slide is the one that is in the partly implemented status. Appendix C lists the 8 caps, which came from 4 different audits that were originally due this quarter, but were revised to future quarters. Of these, 2 recommendations are considered high risk and require an immediate action or action within 30 days. The remaining 6 recommendations are considered medium risk and require priority action to be completed within 60 or 90 days. Appendix D shows the 40 corrective actions that had revised dates. These recommendations came from 8 audits, and they were last due in either Q1 or Q2. So of these, 8 recommendations are considered high risk, 20 are considered medium risk, and 12 are considered low risk. And low risk items require routine corrective action and are expected to be completed within about 6 months. I'm just going to kind of briefly go through those. All right. And last, this slide shows the 14 past due recommendations and their status, and you can see the last date that they were due. Okay, so that concludes my remarks. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Francesca, do we have any public comment on this item?
Thank you, Chair. We do. We'll start with Cesar Javier and then allegedly Audra. And if you are online and would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand now.
Thank you, SANDAG. Simply, with SANDAG Constitution bylaws on audit / investigation, which city or cities, projects are at high risk? Is my city of San Diego one of it? That's our dream. So we know what's going on in our community. Thank you, SANDAG.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be allegedly Audra, followed by Blair Beekman.
Can't even get you guys to stay for a whole meeting. It's a lot of time to, spend when you're being paid. Anywho, yes. So I would like to recommend that you audit the board and their ability to uphold the Brown Act, which is the law. Because if they can't do that and they don't properly notice meetings, then everything is null and void. So it doesn't matter what business you do, you should be looking into making sure that just those basics are being done. And whether or not legal is actually putting them in danger by lying and giving them illegal information and advice. So, I think that would be a fantastic recommendation for an audit to make sure that this board is being run legally and by the law, right? Then we can trust that everything that you bring forward is straightforward and transparent, not being hidden and brushed under the rug. Because what point in auditing anything else if we can't even guarantee that these meetings are run properly, noticing the people properly, therefore doing legal work? Because if you can't run a meeting, what's the point of doing anything else? Because just that meeting that you make all of these approvals or whatever you're doing is pointless. We're basically going to have to revisit this meeting. And I'm going to continue to, as you guys continue to negligently and willfully not properly notice the public and pretend that you can do it somewhere else, you're going to continue to be doing illegal business blatantly in the people's face because you don't care. So, that should be something you want to audit lickety split. And I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be that hard. But you would probably charge us like $500,000. Who knows, right? Because it'd be like a lot of work to get into that. When I have done part of it for you, I have video evidence that you guys don't provide. And
thank you. Your time has expired. Our final speaker will be Blair Beekman. You can go ahead.
Hi, this is listening day for Blair. I'm just listening. Thanks for dialogue on the previous item and good luck what can be discussed for this item. Thanks.
Thank you. That concludes the public comments.
Are there any member comments? Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the presentation. I'm, unfortunately struggling to recall how much more information we get at the annual report versus this, but I do. I just want to make note that it would be helpful, at least on the annual one, if not quarterly, just to have a representation that looks like what I call a burn down chart, because it's difficult to understand by looking at the way the information is presented right now. If findings are growing faster than closures, I mean, you have a nice table that shows how many have been closed cumulatively, but it didn't show how many, or I couldn't tell if there's how many have been closed in the last quarter versus previous quarters versus previous years. So just being able to have a grasp of, are we making progress? Which my instinct, based upon the focus that Mario has put on this, which I appreciate, we are making progress, but it'd be a good way to see, my background being in the software industry, we get requirements, we close them, we have what's called a burn down chart, which just literally you can see, well, are your requirements coming in faster than your ability to implement these? And having something like that, just so we can see how the organization's doing, would be useful, but probably not necessary more than once per year. So maybe it's part of the annual as opposed to every quarter. That's it. Thanks. I appreciate the presentation though.
Thanks. Again, I agree. It's hard to keep track of where the progress being. I just see some items are getting closed out, but I agree with Member Zito that it's just hard to see overall. If I correct me if I'm wrong, but was the quarterly report, was that an ask from the board of directors that we do this, that we look at them, or is that just something we've done historic? Only because I'm looking at the previous item you looked at the work plan. Instead of doing a yearly work plan, you did it for 2 years.
Yeah.
And I think it gives that broad spectrum. And, I'm not a fan of having to do things just because somebody said, but maybe look at them and see if it's an effective for your team and for the agency, because, we got in one of the slides, it went down to, I think it was like 4% of the things got closed out. And again, I understand for me, it's not the percentage. That's how we show progress. The true measure of progress is the agency running better? Is it, effective? Are we really finding the findings within all the stuff? Are we be able to move the agency forward on our operational front and the trust from the public? So I was just curious. I mean, I don't know if, every 6 months would be good, or, do a 6-month review and then come back at an annual review, something like that. So I don't know. That's kind of the thought. I was so excited about this year work plan, because it seems like it takes so much time off of staff of just doing the planning process, where you actually can just do the work. And I think doing more work than planning is always advantageous.
Thank you, Chair. There's a collective sigh that just occurred on this side of the table. My recollection, and former chair may remember, was I believe that Wong Nickerson wanted us to report out. And I do think it would be important if we could address the cadence. I think that it does take a large amount of time to put it together. So I think 6 months, you'd still have your eye on it, but it would give everybody a little bit more breathing work room.
Yeah, well, Dave, you have any?
Oh yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, you are correct. I think part of the challenge was that in the period of time where we weren't seeing a lot of progress, there was a lack of comfort of reducing the amount of frequency. I certainly think it's worth considering. I would personally be inclined, the next quarterly report is our annual report, right? So we have to do that one. And maybe we can talk about it at that point once we get a better view of how things are looking and see if we want to consider swapping to 6 months. But yeah, actually, that was one of the first things that my recollection, Courtney, you had done when you came on, was to reduce the frequency. And at that point, the public members were hesitant and asking for more updates, simply because it was difficult to see how progress was being made. And so I think we're getting in a better spot. And maybe we can make an adjustment now. Hopefully by the time we do the annual report, we'll have a full load of public members as well that can participate in the discussion. Very much appreciate the ones that are showing up. Thank you for doing that. So that's my input.
No, I'm okay. You know, if we put that off, and it's hard because I always think there's two ways of thinking. Because you know, your kids, or when we were in school, you know, our reports got done the night before. It didn't matter if we got it 6 months ahead of time. So again, but my gut feeling is that staff's not scrambling the week before the agenda goes out saying, okay, what's been accomplished? What did we do? Let's get on this stuff. I feel like it's always an ongoing thing that, especially with Director Picnic Forest, she's probably on top of all the stuff, making sure things are moving forward and getting reported. So I think it's an important part of it. So I'm happy to revisit at the next meeting. Perhaps some different dialogue will be there. Is this just a receive, or is this? Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's just a information only thing. So Francesca, do we have any continued non-agenda public comments?
No, Chair, we do not.
Fantastic. Well, that concludes our agenda for today. Our next meeting is scheduled for July 10th at 1 p.m. Meeting adjourned.